Greetings, class. My research paper is going to address the essential topic of how Christianity, Christian leaders, and literacy helped spearhead the end of slavery in the United States. And to give a little background as to why I chose this topic, I was fairly clueless about it, I guess, in real blatant terms. I've been a public school teacher for many years now, over 2 decades, and was educated in our public school systems on the West Coast mostly, and had never really even contemplated the power of the Christian faith in abolition or even literacy in abolition. And I think in taking this class, it's really helped me to understand the power of both in ending slavery, literacy, obviously for slaves and former slaves, but also for the religious movement and the Christian leaders really taking hold of the formerly enslaved communities in the United States, or at that time enslaved communities in the United States, and having an impact. So with that being said, I'm going to try to blaze through some of the content here, and it's going to be kind of thick. I'm going to get into a brief background of slavery in the United States and some historical context of it in the United States. And then I'm going to get into the early Quaker movements of the 1600s and how they were some of the most early believers in abolition and how slavery should be abolished in the U.S. And so I'll cover some of their key figures. And then I'll move into the movement of Samuel Davies and his ministry and teaching slaves to read and to write in Virginia. I think that was something that we learned about in class and really kind of opened my eyes up to the power of literacy with slaves and giving them the agency to actually own their own belief and take religion on themselves and have a sense of worth and spiritual being. And then I will touch upon the First and Second Great Awakening and the powerful figures that came out of there and spoke out against slavery, the ministers like Charles Finney, Theodore Wright, and the Anti-Slavery Society, Theo Parker, and how as a scholar he really turned against slavery because of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 coming into place. And that really kind of ignited a lot of Christians to move toward abolition because all of a sudden it was kind of more in their face, so to speak. And then I'd really like to focus on Black ministers, early Black ministers and abolitionists, and many of them who were taught to read either by Quakers or by other Christians and learn to gain literacy and really have their own agency to become ministers and preachers like Absalom Jones, Richard Allen. Those were the 1780s and 1790s. And they helped really instigate their own communities in their churches and were also very vocal in the abolitionist movement. And then I'm going to briefly touch on how churches were divided before the Civil War. And then, of course, the abolitionist movement leading right up to the Civil War with, again, another key figure, Frederick Douglass, learning to read and write and to be a speaker for the movement and having the ear of Abraham Lincoln and so many others. And then even getting into people like Sojourner Truth with her faith and speaking ability, being able to move so many people in the United States to think about slavery and to think about their place in religion and their relationship with God and how it needed to be something that ended. And then eventually I will end with the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment, which actually did officially end slavery in the United States. And hopefully through this paper, we'll be able to create a good understanding of how Christianity and education, specifically literacy, and giving slaves and then former slaves the agency to understand their predicament, to have the language and the religion or religious belief to empower themselves to push for not just freedom for themselves, but freedom for all people in the United States. And that's about it. Thank you.